And Ukraine is on edge. The buzz on ground is the Russian invasion has started with Russian soldiers. Russian President Vladimir Putin may call them peacekeepers, but here in Ukraine, especially in Kiev, people say that this is an invasion of Russian soldiers in two provinces of Ukraine, Donetsk and Lugansk. Now, Russia has declared them, signed a decree saying it's the People's Republic of Donetsk and People's Republic of Lugansk, and they've sent in peacekeepers. The United States, NATO forces, European countries, Canada, they've all said that sanctions will follow. US has taken the first step. US President Joe Biden says there will be sanctions on anyone who carries out any deals with these new provinces or the People's Republic of Lugansk and Donetsk. There are other sanctions that may follow. People here on ground say that half measures will not work. Half measures will only embolden Russia like it did after Crimea in 2014. And subsequently, this is just step one. Russia will not stop just with the invasion or just with sending troops in these two provinces of the east. Will Kiev and Kharkiv, the two biggest cities, one in the west and one in the east, be next? Let's take a look at how the world reacted to Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Those who chose the way of violence, they admit they see no other way to resolve the Donbas crisis other than the military way. In this regard, I deem it necessary to make a decision that should have been made a long time ago, to immediately recognize the independence and sovereignty of Donetsk People's Republic and Lugansk People's Republic. And I would like to request the Federal Assembly to support, to back this decision and ratify the agreement of friendship and mutual help with both republics. We will draft this document and sign these documents in the near future.
Russia's clear attack on Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity is unprovoked. It is an attack on Ukraine's status as a UN member state. It violates a basic principle of international law. This move by President Putin is clearly the basis for Russia's attempt to create a pretext for a further invasion of Ukraine.
Donetsk and Lugansk, anyway, were held by separatists, very sympathetic to the Russians. But now it's become official that Russian soldiers have now moved into Ukrainian territory. The threat is that Russian soldiers will just see this as step one. It's not just what Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered or steps that he's already taken. It's what he said that makes people here on ground in Kiev extremely nervous. He has said that Ukraine is a part of Russian history, of Russian culture. He's attacked what he's termed as oligarchy and corruption in Ukraine, and that Ukraine is becoming the playground of NATO forces, which is detrimental to Russia's security and will not be permitted. Now, he spoke at length. I spoke to people on ground who say that this is just the very first step of that invasion that has taken place. Unless very strong crippling sanctions are imposed on Russia, the next step will follow, and that may well be the targeting of Kiev and Kharkiv. Kiev now waking up to a strong action taken by the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Not only has he recognized Donetsk and Lugansk as independent republics, Russia has also sent in its forces in these regions, calling them peacekeepers. But here in Ukraine, it's being seen as the first sign of Russian invasion into Ukraine's territory. But the statement made by the Russian President Vladimir Putin is even more significant when he says Ukraine is part of Russia's culture and history, and that corruption and oligarchy has prevented real modernization and democracy in Ukraine, indicating that the current leadership is unacceptable. He also said that Ukraine cannot be permitted to be the North Atlantic Treaty Organization backyard, indicating that several Western countries that have carried out military exercises here, and millions of dollars worth of Western equipment and military observers and trainers who are here are unacceptable to Russia. What does this indicate? What would Russia's next steps be? A large number of Russian soldiers are amassed at the Belarus border. That can easily target Kiev. It's just 90 miles from Kiev. On the other hand, a large number of Russian soldiers amassed at the borders on the eastern side, opposite Kharkiv. And of course, now Russian peacekeepers inside Donetsk and Lugansk. Apart from, of course, the engagement that is already on in the Donbas region, where some of the best Ukrainian military fighters are engaged in combat. Now, this indicates that there is a multi-pronged offensive and Ukraine virtually in a Russian bear hug. With cameraman Pavan Kumar in Kiev, Ukraine, Gaurav Sawant for India Today. India Today is always first with the newsmakers, and hours after Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that his forces are being sent into the new People's Republic of Donetsk and Lugansk, India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan spoke to the Russian Shari Affairs in New Delhi, Ambassador Babushkin. Let's listen in.
Joining me is Russia's Charge d'Affaires at the embassy in New Delhi, Ambassador Roman Babushkin. Many thanks for joining us over here, sir. Let me begin by asking you, why now? Why is it that Russia decided to come out with this decree, a presidential decree recognizing Donetsk and Luhansk?
Thank you, Geeta. Now comes a very historic moment, since actually for the recent decades, our concerns were not taken into account by our Western partners, and since the very beginning of the Minsk package of measures, which was actually also endorsed by the UN Security Council resolution, right after that, no progress in implementation of this package of measures has taken place. Moreover, Ukraine was playing the Western card against Russia, and West was playing Ukrainian card in their geopolitical purposes against Russia. Of course, they want to split this region and create the situation of some sort of a controlled instability, which they also experienced to do in many other regions, including Afghanistan, including others. Now it is a critical moment, because under the recent developments, when the US and NATO allies pumped Ukraine with thousands of tons of military equipment, including lethal weapons, including openly anti-Russian exercises in the country, and deploying more and more offensive weapons closer to the Russian borders, including the anti-missile defense systems, which could be easily transformed into offensive weapons and which could reach the Russian territory, central part of Russia, within just minutes. So, of course, that presents a very serious security threat to Russia. But most importantly, of course, we, unlike other participants, so-called participants of this process, including Kiev authorities, including those who are sitting in Washington, in Brussels, and other capitals, we do care about the people in these Donetsk and Lugansk regions, because actually they are remaining permanently in the recent time, especially under the conditions of genocide. So there is regular shelling, regular ceasefire violations, a sabotage group, who are attacking critical infrastructure units. So they made the life there impossible. There are so many tens of thousands of refugees are coming to the Russian territory in order to save their life. And this is the only way. Let me come to the conclusion, which about your question exactly. But it needs to be understood very clearly, and it helps to explain why now. Because actually, this is the only way to save these people, and it's the only way to show that this is the outcome of the arrogance and ignorance of the Russian demands on the equal and undivided security in the region.
There is also anger and outrage that Russia has sent its forces into these two breakaway republics or the newly carved republics of Donetsk and Lugansk. Of course, Russia says these are peacekeeping forces and their aim is to ensure that people here are not harassed by the Ukrainian forces. Remember, just last week it was being said that Ukraine had planned to target these localities, to target these areas and take control of them once again, something that Ukraine insisted they did not intend to do. But now Russian tanks, armored personnel carriers and artillery pieces have been seen on camera moving into Donetsk. It is being said that more forces will come in. But is this just for the defense of this area, or will this become staging ground for future offensive or more offensive into Ukrainian territory?
Russian President Vladimir Putin recognized 2 breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine as independent on Monday and ordered the Russian army to launch what Moscow called a peacekeeping operation in the area. The moves further up the ante in a crisis the West fears could unleash a major war. In a lengthy televised address, a visibly angry Putin described Ukraine as an integral part of Russia's history, calling eastern Ukraine ancient Russian land, and said he was confident the Russian people would support his decision.
We demand from those who captured and hold the power in Kiev to immediately end the combat activities. Otherwise, all responsibility for the possible continuation of the bloodshed will be entirely on the conscience of the regime ruling the territory of Ukraine.
Putin told Russia's defense ministry to deploy troops into the 2 breakaway regions to, quote, keep the peace, in a decree issued shortly after he announced recognition for Russia-backed separatists there. Moscow's action may well torpedo a last-minute bid for a summit with U.S. President Joe Biden aimed at preventing a Russian invasion of Ukraine. The White House on Monday said Biden strongly condemned Putin's decree, while leaders in Britain, Germany, France, the United States, and the EU all vowed to impose swift sanctions on Russia in response to Putin's actions.
India, of course, appears to be caught between a rock and a hard place. India very close to Russia, strategic partners for decades. India equally close to the United States of America. Will India have to choose? India, of course, as of now has said there needs to be a resolution through dialogue. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador T.S. Tirumurti, called desperately to de-escalate the situation, to ensure that there is no further violence, calling for a dialogue as the only solution to the Russia-Ukraine crisis. India's envoy to the UN, Ambassador T.S. Tirumurti, called for restraint on all sides. He said, and I quote, "We cannot afford to have military escalation," emphasizing the vital need for all sides to maintain peace. India considers safety and security of civilians as the topmost priority. More than 20,000 Indian students and nationals live in different parts of Ukraine. India's envoy to UN said, well-being of Indians is top priority for India. He also said any escalation of tension along the border of Ukraine with the Russian Federation is a matter of deep concern.
The safety and security of civilians are essential. More than 20,000 Indian students and nationals live and study in different parts of Ukraine, including in its border areas. The well-being of Indian nationals is of priority to us. In conclusion, we strongly emphasize the vital need for all sides to maintain international peace and security by exercising the utmost restraint and intensifying diplomatic efforts to ensure that a mutually amicable solution is arrived at the earliest. We have been closely following the evolving developments relating to Ukraine, including developments along the eastern border of Ukraine and the related announcement by the Russian Federation. The escalation of tension along the border of Ukraine with the Russian Federation is a matter of deep concern. These developments have the potential to undermine peace and security of the region. We call for restraint on all sides. The immediate priority is de-escalation of tensions, taking into account the legitimate security interests of all countries and aimed towards securing long-term peace and stability in the region and beyond.
A lot of information is also coming through truck drivers crossing the border, and they too seem to paint a rather worrying picture of large movement of men and material and warlike stores very close to the borders. So is this just the beginning? Was this just phase one? And should strong sanctions not follow? That's the buzz on ground here in Ukraine. Unless there are very strong sanctions on Russia, it will only be emboldened, like in 2014 with Crimea, to move on and take control of Kiev. We are in Kiev and will continue to report from ground zero, but that is all I have time for on this broadcast. Many thanks for watching.